Alright, let us push onwards. This time I actually have audio for this one. Good. I can't believe I made that mistake again. The weird thing is, I keep making the same mistake, but I keep making it in different ways. It's weird. I think I've made the mistake 3 times, and yet it's all been for different reasons. For the first one, I forgot to plug the damn mic in. The second one, I forgot to turn the mute button off on the controller. And for this one, well, I guess for episode 23, I forgot to turn the goddamn microphone on, which is... I don't feel as bad about it since it's always on, because I always have it plugged in, but I was cleaning my room yesterday, as I explained somewhere else. Yeah, I explained in the start of the episode 23, because I did like a small commentary just to explain why there's going to be no audio. Well, no commentary anyway. Yeah, so there's different reasons, but so long as nothing goes wrong, I shouldn't ever encounter that again. I guess live and learn is the thing you need to take from this. Speaking of audio problems, I got my first ever video copyright claimed. I'm not too worried about it, because copyright claim is for videos that make money. It essentially means whoever is like claiming whatever... Essentially, someone is claiming something in your video. It's typically music or a cutscene or something like that. And what that means is they will get the revenue from that video. But I don't make any money from this, so that's not really a concern for me. In fact, it's kind of a good thing that I'm playing... What it was Persona. It was a Dark Souls. It was Persona. The intro song got copyright claimed, and then also a later song, which is just like a song that is near... It's not always playing, but it plays a lot, because it's like background music, essentially. Well, not background music, but it's like, it does play quite a bit, so... It's probably a good thing I'm doing Persona 5 now, rather than, like, in a year or two, when, hopefully, my channel is bigger, and I'm actually getting revenue from it. So therefore I don't have to worry about copyright claims at the moment. Granted, it was still very concerning. I was like... I was very concerned about whether people would still be able to see the video, but from what I know, copyright claim just means the one claiming the video takes the money from it, which is nothing. 0 money. I suppose if I was getting revenue from it and I wanted to get rid of the copyright claim, the best I could do is just turn off the music going forward, because I couldn't do anything about it then. Or now, essentially. Because the way it works is... I could remove the audio, but I'd have to remove the whole audio. I think that includes my commentary from the section that is being claimed. Now, for the intro section, there wouldn't be too much of a problem, because I don't talk at all. I just wanted to let the intro play, because it's stylish, it looks awesome, it's cool. I just let the intro play, so that wouldn't have been a problem. However, there's like 5 full minutes of me talking with background music that I would have had to cut the audio of. And naturally, I can't do that! Yeah, so that was fun. Live and learn, I suppose. Best to get the Persona stuff out of the way now then, I guess. I was gonna do Persona at some point on the channel, just because of my love for it. So, it's fine. I will say... Oh crap, oh crap, oh crap. That's what happens when you don't have the wax, by the way. Forgot to mention that since I actually did it in the last video. When you don't have the wax on your head, the little hands come out and they grab you and they do curse damage. You know, death damage. Yeah, so today has been a bit weird in that I have had so many ideas for my book. Like, it's been insane. Like, I've been at work all day, 9 until 6, which has been fun. sarcastic, of course. Now, I don't mind work. You have to work to be paid. It's fine. It's understandable. I don't mind work. I'm not going to complain about it. That being said, what does make me mad is I get ideas when I'm at work. I get so many ideas for my story. Like, oh god, there was so many. And the problem is, I can't write them down because I can't just stop in the middle of working, take out my notebook, because I do always carry one on me, and write down, because it's not just like a few short sentences. I need a 2 pages worth of crap just to explain everything that's in my head at the moment. And that was just for like 1 or 2 of the ideas. I had so many. Oh god. I had ideas for specific characters, specific scenes, different concepts for the power system, essentially. So for those who don't know, the book I'm writing, the power system, if you will, is based on souls. Not actual, Dark souls, but when you're born, your soul gets a colour, and each colour corresponds to an element. So a red soul would mean you would have access to fire. A black soul means you have access to darkness. Green soul is poison and healing. White soul is light. A brown soul is earth, and everything nature related. So that includes like wood and vines, greenery, all that stuff, all the stuff that comes from the earth. And purple is the odd man out, essentially. What purple does essentially is it gives you greater enhancement. So essentially, everyone is capable of using mana to enhance themselves physically. However, normal people, I say normal people, those with just any other colour soul just get like a 2 times buff. The best they can do is double the physical attributes. Those with a purple soul can make it 5 times as strong, 10 times as strong, depending on how skilled they are. So they can make their body 10 times stronger, whereas the max someone else can do with their soul is make it 2 times stronger. This is, of course, to make up for the fact that they don't have an element. They don't have any kind of element to them. Along with the fact they can buff themselves far past what normal people can, they also have access to weakening spells, so they can weaken both people as well as people's spells and their mana and their magic. When I was making the story, I had to decide whether I wanted to go. I had to decide which route I wanted to go. I knew I wanted a hard magic system, so something that had a lot of rules, that had a lot of stipulations that you had to work around. I didn't want just you can basically do whatever you want kind of magic. That's why you have to be a specific soul color to use a specific element. You have to have the required amount of mana. You have to know the spell. And there's also ways to enhance spells. There's ways to weaken them. And so, a lot of stuff. So that's how my soul magic works, essentially. I say soul magic, it's more like soul color magic. Soul magic is actual, it's its own thing. It's like pure mana. You're making spells with pure mana, rather than pushing it through your element. Think of it like... What's the best way to put it? Think of it like light. Light works really well, actually. Before you see light, it's typically depicted as white. However, when it hits a surface, or like your eye, it separates into different colours. Think of it like that. Soul magic essentially snatches the light before it separates. Whereas normal magic, normal mana, whenever you use a spell, normally you would say like black soul magic or white soul magic or green soul magic, and it's essentially you not being able to take it before it gets separated into that specific element. God damn. I feel like that's a bad way to explain it, but either way, all you need to know is elemental magic is easy, well, easier, but using pure soul magic is harder because you don't just have access to your soul. You need to really train to be able to feel it, to sense it, which is another thing I'm going to get into later. Currently, there's no way for people to like sense souls, but I'm going to have it like they're all connected. So once you learn to sense your own soul, you can realize you can sense others. So it's a lot of stuff coming later on. Along with that, there is... God, there was just so many ideas. I also came up with the idea for... This one was inspired by Nen specifically. And Nen as well as Jujutsu Kaisen actually. So Nen, you can place restrictions on your Nen in order to improve it. And in Jujutsu Kaisen, you can make a binding vow in order to manipulate your cursed energy in a stronger way. The idea I had was that you have to place a conviction or a law on your soul, essentially, because everything comes from the soul. All magic, all mana comes from the soul. Everything is connected to the soul, essentially. So essentially, if you make a vow or a law with your soul, depending on what that law is, you could gain different attributes. Or you could restrict yourself in certain ways. The idea I had in mind was that I intend to use it for the main character. The hell? I intend to use it for the main character in a very specific way. I'm not gonna... Should I tell you what way? So essentially, I do plan to place one law on him so far. I know one that I'm going to put on him. It is the law that should these specific people die, he will die himself. So essentially, should they be in danger, he will gain access to greater strength in order to save them. However, should they die, like at all, at any point, within 24 hours, he himself will die, no matter what. There is no way to get out of the law. Once you place a law on your soul, it cannot be manipulated, changed, or removed, no matter what. That will stay, no matter what. You can't remove, manipulate, or change a law you place on yourself. Yeah, so if anything ever happens to these specific characters, more than just one, then he will die 24 hours afterwards. The 24 hours is so we can get revenge in case they were killed. I also plan to have two of the people that he's made the vow for also make laws, just to show how close they all are, essentially. But I'm not going to tell you what the laws are, just because I feel like that would be a bit much. But oh god, it's just... It's so much information just piled into my head. Like, currently I'm still working on the first book. I'm not even halfway through the first book. This stuff won't come in for like 7 to 8 books later. Like, oh god. It hurts my head thinking about it. Like 7 to 8 books minimum until this stuff starts to come in. Until it starts being used. Well, I say minimum. More like, it's probably more like 5 to 6. So I have a lot planned. I also had the idea for a character, like an antagonist. So, there are, like, a few ways to get multiple souls. Specifically, the maximum you can have is 2. But you can't ever... you can't ever really remove a soul. You can't be soulless. You're essentially just pushing another soul into you. And so you can, later on in the series, gain access to 2 elements. But it mostly has artificial means. It's artificial, there's a couple ways to do it, but none of them are natural. However, I plan to implement one character. One specific character who is an anomaly. who is born with 2 soul colors, essentially. And oh god, am I going to make him terrifying. I'm still deciding on whether it's a him or a her. But considering what I intend to plot out for this person's story, I feel like him would be better, just because it feels heavy-handed. Essentially, a lot of my character's companions later on in the story, I feel, are very female oriented. So I need some dudes in there. So I feel like I need to get at least 1 extra dude in there. So I feel like it's going to be a him. Either way, this character, oh god, he's going to be beautiful. He's going to be terrifying, which is kind of the point. I really want to talk about it. I kind of want to hint at it. If you watched MHA, he's going to be similar to Gigantomachia, but different. He's not going to be a mindless dog. Essentially, he is a walking disaster. So, also influence from Kurama, in that he was said to be a walking disaster. Essentially, the 2 soul colors the dude has access to, just the ones he was born with, are going to be a brown soul. Wait a minute. I don't know if brown soul doesn't work for what I wanted to do. I'm going to have to go purple soul, but I already have so many characters planned with purple souls. Oh god. Should I do purple? Yeah, I need to do purple soul. The reason I need to do purple soul is because I need him to be big. I need him to be big. I need him to be like mountain-sized. Oh crap. So essentially, this gigantic Goliath of a man is walking around, and he not only has access to 2 souls, but he will also have access to a very specific spell I plan to introduce, but he won't have it as a spell, it will just be natural for him. Well, I say it will be natural for him. It will be something he acquired naturally without thinking about it. It will be to open his soul. So essentially, the way it works is each body, everyone's body, can only hold a certain amount of mana in it. However, the soul has infinite mana in it. It is where all of your power comes from. However, the body can only hold so much, so the soul restricts it. Whenever your body is full up of mana, it stops letting it out. Therefore, do you keep your body safe? Because if you kept being pumped full of mana, your body would implode, or no, not implode, but explode. Essentially, it would be an outburst of mana. If you've seen Naruto and you remember the very first, you remember very early on, the wind dude, the guy from the sand village with the windpipe hands. You know how his arms burst? Essentially like that. You'd be pumped full of so much mana, your body would just explode. However, if you're able to continuously use mana whilst it's leaking out, then you wouldn't have to worry about that. Granted, it doesn't typically leak out at a fast rate. It's only when you're like sleeping or resting does your mana slowly refill. Hence, you don't have to worry about it leaking out and making you explode randomly, because once your body is full, it stops giving you mana. Your soul stops giving you mana once your body is full. However, you could, and I plan to do this, introduce a way to open the soul so that it constantly leaks mana out. Well, not constantly, but so long as the spell is active, it will leak mana out into the body. And the way to counteract exploding is by using a spell to constantly have mana being drained as well as given in. I got this idea from Hikari from Jujutsu Kaisen. If you're watching the anime, you haven't got to him yet. He's cool. If you have seen the manga, you know about him and his Jackpot. Essentially, I got the inspiration from Jackpot. I don't know if I know that he can only hold a certain amount of cursed energy. Well, I don't know, because I don't know if cursed energy works the way my mana does, whereas it floods the body, because it seems external as well as internal. So any excess seems to leak out, whereas with my characters, the most leak out you'll get is they'll be covered in an aura. But that does not mean they won't explode if they get too much mana. Yeah, so essentially, I plan to have three characters make use of a open soul. The first will be the giant dude. He will have naturally learned it just because he is an anomaly. He is a prodigy. He's a genius without knowing about it. He's a natural disaster, essentially. So he is constantly leaking mana, but he doesn't have to worry about that because he has 2 spells active at all times, which is counteracting the constantly leaking of mana. God damn it. The first spell is... oh god, what's it called? I haven't come up with a name for it, but if you've seen Black Clover, think of Presence of the Demon King. Similar to that, essentially it is a radius around him, and whilst he walks, everything around him in that radius gets crushed. Essentially, gravity is forcing down everything around him. So essentially getting near him is dangerous. The second will be why I need him to be a Purple Soul, because Purple Souls not only have access to enhancement abilities where they can buff the physical abilities and they can weaken others, they can also manipulate their body. So I need him to have access to that so that he can grow. Because whilst there are giants in the story, I don't want him to be a giant. Plus, giants aren't that big. They're not as big as I plan to make him anyway. So I need him to have a purple soul so that his body can grow to that size, essentially. And I plan to have so much terrifying crap for him. The spells I plan to give this dude... I feel bad for my main character, honestly, with the spells I plan to give this dude. To be entirely clear, I don't know how my main character is going to beat this dude, okay? The first spell I came up with is terrifying already. Essentially, the dude flash transforms. He immediately transforms. So say he notices my main character, and in his giant body, he just looks forward and starts throwing a punch, which is weird because he's like freaking 100 feet tall and throwing a punch in midair and nothing. Suddenly, he disappears, he's in front of you, he's normal size, and he's throwing that fist at you. Not only is it his fist, which is, enhanced by like constantly leaking mana, and plus it's a purple soul, so it's enhanced by that, but he also has the mass, the weight of his full size behind it. So my main character gets hit by that, and he doesn't die from it, but he gets whiplash, he's sick, he does not feel good after that. That's essentially the first interaction I plan to have with them. So, oh god. So I feel like that's probably going to be not his gimmick, but his main way of fighting, if you will. If it was Jujutsu Kaisen, it would be his curse technique, like Infinite is, or Unlimited is for Gojo. Essentially, flash transformation. He will transform his body instantaneously, and no matter what size he gets to, he will always have access to his full weight, which will be the weight of his, 100 foot, probably actually bigger than 100 feet. I'm not a good reference. I don't know how big 100 feet is. Well, no, I kind of do. I went on a slide that was 300 foot, a water slide. So more like 300 feet is what I'm thinking. Yeah, so he will have access to 300 feet of a giant, the weight of the 300 foot muscular man behind each one of his blows, even if he is as tall as 5'6", essentially. So as you can tell, I've got a lot of ideas. So that was the first, well, not first big one, but second. Technically, the dude only came to mind because I already had an idea for a different dude with an open soul. But this one I've had the thought of him since yesterday, not since today. Essentially, just a healer who is using a constant healing effect with an open soul to make sure that he's constantly regenerating instantly. That's the one that came from Hakari, essentially. But his will be different in that if he's constantly healing, he will eventually get to a point where he's no longer healed, at which point he will start to explode. But the way I figured to counteract this would be, since he's a green soul user, he also has access to poison. So whilst he is constantly healing himself, he's also constantly poisoning himself. So he's constantly being healed and poisoned, so there's always something to heal. Therefore, he never runs into the problem of excess mana, making him explode. Therefore, he is not only healing physical damage whenever he gets hit, he is just instantaneously healing physical damage, as well as the damage that's done from the poison. I'm not going to tell you how I plan to beat him, but it's not going to be nice. The dude's not going to be nice. In fact, I can give a hint. If you've seen How Not to Train a Demon Lord? Misfit at Demon King Academy. Jesus Christ, where the hell did I get the How Not To thing? Misfit at Demon King Academy. If you've seen Anos versus that dude with the magical sword, where he kept killing him and bringing him back to life, I'm essentially going to recreate that to a degree. It's going to be fun. And he will actually be the inspiration for what leads another character to developing a similar move. Not, of course, with the whole healing, but keeping the soul open in order to access greater portions of mana. Also, the reason I went with mana instead of magic is, one, because I love Black Clover, and mana is typically the word they use over magic in that series. Also because I feel like magic is overused a lot. Like, I'm not prohibiting the word magic, but I'm definitely going to be avoiding it if I can. But spells and mana is the best I can do. In fact, since I'm still writing the first book, I could get to the end of the first book and come up with just a different word for it entirely. Which I'm not opposed to. Considering this, I intend to make this like my grand freaking masterpiece. I tend to make it so goddamn long. Like the prologue, like the first prologue bit of it on the island. Like they're on an island currently. The prologue of that should be 4-ish books. And then they move on to a whole continent where there's going to be, oh god, there's going to be kingdom stuff and fighting and traveling and exploring and, oh god, the criminals and crap. There's going to be so much stuff. So it's going to be massive, essentially. So I have a lot in mind for it. I will say, I am a bit concerned about all the inspirations I'm taking. Like, the whole Hakari thing, opening the soul in order to access unlimited mana so that you can constantly use spells. I don't like how similar it is, because I don't just want to copy people. Like, I love taking ideas and twisting them, but in a way that pays homage to the original creator, to the original series. Like, I think it's impossible to avoid comparisons, just because everything's been done at least once. So it's impossible to avoid that stuff. Plus, if you get into a hobby through something, you're typically going to emulate that something, because if you liked it enough to get into the hobby, clearly you want to replicate what they did. So I don't want to replicate anyone, but I do want to pay homage to a few series. Hence why several of my concepts are similar to that of other series, like the whole mana restrictions is close to Nen and Cursed Technique. Well, Cursed Energy, anyway. Concerning Nen, I don't think I'll place many more restrictions on mana. One thing I will do is that the whole law thing that you can place on a soul is connected to the soul because of the fact that the soul is essentially your heart. It is your personality, it is your being, it is who you are as a person, as an individual. So if you have a goal in mind, if you have something you care deeply about that's connected to you, that's ingrained into your being, then that will be ingrained into your soul, and therefore you will get more power towards said goal. To give you an example, take Sanji from One Piece. He will never hit a woman. Therefore, if he was in the story, on his soul would be never hit a woman. Along with that would also be protect women. So if a woman was ever in danger in front of him, he would get stronger because his soul would open up a little bit more and give him access to more mana in order to protect whoever he wanted to, so long as it was a woman. So essentially, if your conviction for something is strong enough, your soul will respond in kind, essentially. Because it's a part of you, it responds to who you are. It's working for you, it's working with you. Your soul wants you to succeed, it wants you to do the best you can. And so therefore, though it is not like an animate thing, it's not like its own being, it's you, essentially. It's pushing to help you. It's helping you surpass your limits in order to achieve something you want. So, it's not the same as Nen restrictions, but it's like you're engraving your dream onto your soul, and therefore your soul helps push towards said dream or said goal or said task. I don't want to use Hikari again, and I don't want to use Sanji again, because I feel like I explained the Sanji thing quite well. Try and think of a different character. Take Ichigo. Ichigo is a well-liked character. He's pretty well-rounded. Take Ichigo. In fact, no, take Natsu. Natsu is the perfect example for this. So, I don't like the whole friendship boost thing that people say Natsu has. I don't see it much. Well, I don't see it as much. I do know it's there. I've seen it definitely. Natsu gets strange power boosts when his friends are in danger. But essentially, that's what would be. That is exactly what the soul thing does in my story. For Natsu, protecting his family, protecting the guild, is his dream, essentially. The guild is his family. If you hurt that family, you go against him as a person, as a being. He loves them with all of his heart, and so he will do anything for them. So protecting him is basically always his number one priority. And because of how much he cares for them and how much he thinks about that, and how much it is ingrained into his very being to protect the guild, that would be ingrained on his heart. And so if they were in danger, he would get more power from his soul in order to help protect them. So essentially, Natsu is the perfect example of what the system should work out to be. That said, it also means I have to introduce what they are specifically early on, so that the readers understand it best. So they don't just like look at the page and suddenly something's changed and one of the characters is beating another out of nowhere. So I need to make sure I don't run into that. I don't want stuff like that, plot holes and stuff. I'm not the best power scaler, but I do want my story and characters to be consistent. Like currently where I'm writing now, my main character just lost to a fight, but I need him to win another one, so I plan to have him, train for it. Training is important. So you've got to be consistent and show progress. Essentially, you can't just have a main character lose to someone, show them not training, not doing anything, walk up to the enemy's base, go in there, and then suddenly beat that character without explaining anything. That's not how that works. But that aside, I have rambled for a long goddamn time. If you didn't want to hear about my story, I'm sorry. That's basically what this entire episode was. If you enjoyed listening to it, got some ideas for your own stories perhaps, I'm glad. Or if you just like listening to me ramble for some reason, I appreciate you. So, if you enjoyed, please like, subscribe, comment, all the good stuff. I'll see you all later, and goodbye.